Hey guys, Christina here. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can style buttons in a few different ways. So I created this button, and when I hover over it, it goes from a solid to a dashed border, and the border radius is increased, making it more round. And when I click it, the colors go from green to blue. Okay then, let's get started. The first thing I need to do is create my button tag. And as soon as I do that, this tiny button appears. So inside here, I'm going to write styled button. And then I'll add another emoji afterwards. So now there's a button that's actually a bit more visible for the eye. And I'm going to add a class, calling it styled button, like so. And now I'm going to start with the CSS. This is all the HTML that's necessary. So I will start by writing the class name. And then I'll go inside the curly brackets. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font. So I'm going to write font family monospace. And all of a sudden, the font changed. Then I'm going to change the font size to 25 pixels. So it's a bit bigger. And then I'm going to add some padding between the text and the border of the button. So I'm going to add 5 pixels of padding, like so. Then I'm going to change the color on the text. So I'm just going to write color, and I'm going to use 17B381. There we go. And the background is going to be E8, 3 Fs, and another 8, like so. So now there's this light green background. I'm going to change the border. So I want the border to be 2 pixels. I want it to be solid. And I want to use the same color as the font color, like so. After that, I'm going to add a border radius of 4 pixels. And now when I hover over the button, the cursor looks the same, but I want to change that, so I'm going to add cursor and write pointer. And when I do that, I get this indicator that this is something that's clickable. Okay then. So this is the default button setting, but nothing happens when I click it, nothing happens when I hover it, except the cursor changing. So now it's time to style the different states of this button. The first state will be the hover. So what I do then is I write the class name, so dot, styled button. Then I write a colon, and then I write hover. And then I create the opening and closing brackets. So this means that the styled button, when hovered, should have this styling. And I want the border to be 2 pixels still, but I want it to be dashed. And I'm going to have the same border color as before. So I'll paste that in there. So now when I hover, you see it changes from solid to dashed. The next thing I want to change is the border radius. And I'm going to change it, so I'll increase it from 4 pixels to 20 pixels. So now when I hover, I get both more rounded corners and a dashed border. But I want there to be a bit of a transition between these two states. So for the style button, I'm going to add transition. And then I could either write border 0.5 seconds. And then after that, I'd add border radius, 0.5 seconds. And now when I hover, I get a transition, but I could also just write all, 0.5 seconds. And that means that everything that happens in the hover state should transition, and it should take 0.5 seconds to do the transition. So there we go. So that's the first step. Now when I click it, I want to change the colors. So then I'm going to write the same way as for hover. I'm going to write dot, styled, button, colon, but now I'm going to change it to active instead. And active is when clicked. So the first thing I want is the border to change color. I'm going to write border. It's still going to be 2 pixels. It's still going to be dashed, but I want the color to be 1789 B3 instead. So let's have a look what happens now. So I hover it and it changes the border, and then I click and the border changes color. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the font color as well. So I'm going to write color, and I want the color to be the same as the border. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, and now we'll give it a try again. So I hover and I click down, and now both the font and the border changes color. And the final thing I want to do is change the background. So I'm going to use a color that's called E8F7FF. And now when I hover, I get the same effect, and when I click, the button changes to a blue color scheme instead. So that's how you can style buttons. Now it's your turn to try it out. Maybe you could try something with box shadow, having different looks if you don't hover the button, and when you hover it and when you click down, it changes so it looks like a real button being clicked. I hope you'll have fun styling buttons. Good luck, guys. Bye!